known since we last said goodbye. I'm very pretty too. Now come into the house then. I'm such a sweet, steady girl.
Jane Bennet is often perceived as the gentle and passive sister in Pride and Prejudice, yet perhaps this interpretation overlooks her quiet strength, her moral integrity, and social intelligence. Unlike Elizabeth's sharp wit or Lydia's reckless energy, Jane embodies a composed resilience that allows her to navigate the challenges of love, family, and societal expectations with a certain grace.
May I be so bold as to claim the next 2 dances?
I am not engaged, sir.
Good.
While she lacks the overt pride of her father or the prejudice of her sisters, Jane's unwavering kindness is a defining characteristic that shapes her journey. I kind of struggled to come up with some content for this video, thinking that there may not be too much to find about Jane, other than how she's perhaps portrayed in different adaptations. But that being said, Jane, as we've seen in my video about Charles Bingley, does play an important role in the novel, allowing Jane Austen to demonstrate a love story from the perspective of true love. Jane Bennet is a strong character, not because she is loud or defiant, but because she remains steadfast in her values despite the difficulties that she faces. Her kindness is not naivety, rather it reflects her deep-seated belief in seeing the best in people.
Dear Jane, you are too good. Your sweetness and disinterestedness are truly angelic. Don't tease me, Lizzie.
This moral strength enables her to maintain dignity even when Mr. Bingley, influenced by his sisters and Darcy, departs without explanation. Unlike Elizabeth, who reacts to injustices with sharp rebuttals, Jane internalises her emotions, demonstrating restraint and emotional maturity. For instance, when Bingley leaves Netherfield, Jane doesn't outwardly display heartbreak, but we see the toll it takes on her through her subdued demeanour.
Is it not clear enough? Caroline Bingley is convinced her brother is indifferent to me, and she means most kindly to put me on my guard.
Elizabeth notes Jane's quiet suffering, observing how she continues to smile and show kindness despite her evident sadness. In the 95 BBC adaptation, this is beautifully portrayed by Susanna Harker, who subtly conveys Jane Bennet's pain through her expressions and gentle melancholy. Moreover, Jane's response to Charlotte Lucas's marriage to Mr. Collins showcases her strength. While the Bennet family reacts with disbelief and judgment, Jane immediately offers congratulations and good wishes, recognizing Charlotte's pragmatic choice. This ability to accept others' decisions without resentment underscores Jane's moral clarity and social awareness. In contrast, Elizabeth is more vocal of her disapproval, highlighting the differences between the sisters' temperaments.
Charlotte? Engaged to Mr. Collins? Impossible.
Several viewers' comments suggest that Jane and Elizabeth may have been heavily influenced by their aunt and uncle, rather than their own parents. Given Mr. Bennet's disengagement and Mrs. Bennet's frivolous nature, the Gardiners do provide a stabilising influence. Jane's time spent with them likely contribute to her composed and rational manner, reinforcing her position as the family's moral compass. A significant example of this influence is seen when Jane stays with the Gardiners in London after Bingley's departure.
Here we continue at Gracechurch Street to be quiet and comfortable, and my aunt and uncle could not be kinder or more attentive.
Mrs. Gardiner, a wise and nurturing figure, helps Jane recover emotionally, encouraging her to look at the situation pragmatically. While the 95 adaptation doesn't explicitly depict this conversation, the novel suggests that Jane finds comfort and guidance in her aunt's presence, emphasising the contrast between the stability offered by the Gardiners versus the erratic behaviour of her mother.
I must conclude then that Mr. Bingley now no longer cares for me.
The Gardiners also play a crucial role in Jane's emotional recovery by offering her refuge in London. Their support enables Jane to remain hopeful rather than embittered, reinforcing her resilience. This moment also serves as a turning point where Jane, though still heartbroken, begins to move forward rather than wallow in despair. An interesting comment was left by Pam Ferdinand, 7878, and she said, and I'll put it on the screen here for you, Jane is a true adult, and Elizabeth depends upon her. She is more a mother figure to Elizabeth than Mrs. Bennet could ever have been, and she may well be the rock on which Bingley will be able to build his own strength, so that while he may remain kind to his sisters, their influence over him will vanish. Great comment. This got me thinking about Jane's ultimate relationship with Bingley, but also with his sisters. Jane and Elizabeth share a unique bond that sets them apart from their younger sisters. As the eldest, they likely received more attention and education before Mr. and Mrs. Bennet withdrew from parental engagement. In contrast, Mary, Kitty and Lydia grew up with little discipline or guidance, resulting in vastly different personalities. Other viewers have commented that Jane's role as a nurturer extends beyond her sisters to include her nephews and nieces, reinforcing her natural inclination to care for others. If we consider Jane's likely future as Mrs. Bingley, it's easy to imagine her as a loving and devoted aunt, much like Mrs. Gardiner was to her.
I think you've all grown since we last said goodbye. I'm very pretty too. Now come into the house then.
Jane often assumes a maternal role in the family, particularly in the absence of effective parenting, and this is evident in how she and Elizabeth chastise Lydia for her reckless behaviour, attempting to guide her morally despite their parents' neglect.
Aye, for you're as handsome as any of them, Mr. Bingley might like you best of the party.
Lydia.
While there's no explicit scene in the novel or the film or TV adaptations where Jane directly tries to dissuade Lydia from going to Brighton, her general approach to guiding her sisters suggests she might have been concerned. Jane's preference for gentle persuasion rather than outright confrontation contrasts with Elizabeth's more forceful approach, highlighting her nurturing yet reserved nature. And so with that, how about another what-if scenario? I've put together this one, an imaginary conversation between Lizzie, Jane and Lydia. I've also written another alternative what-if scene between Jane and Lydia, but I'll upload that into my new playlist called Audiobooks. Now the scene might go something like this. It was after dinner when Elizabeth and Jane sought out Lydia in the dining room. The younger girl was seated by the window, humming to herself as she embroidered, a rare moment of idleness in her usually restless manner. Elizabeth, always direct, wasted no time. Lydia, you must not go to Brighton. Lydia's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. Must not? And who will stop me? Certainly not Papa, for I mean to have his permission. Jane placed a hand on her sister's arm. Lydia, we only wish to advise you. There is so much to consider before you go. Oh, indeed, I have considered it very much, and I have concluded that it shall be delightful, Lydia said, grinning. What do you imagine will happen? That I shall elope like a heroine in a novel? She giggled at her own joke, but Elizabeth's expression remained firm. You think it impossible, yet you do not know the world as others do, Elizabeth said sharply. You have never seen what happens to young women who behave recklessly. Do you think everyone is as forgiving as our family? Lydia tossed her embroidery aside, crossing her arms. You and Jane are determined to spoil my fun. Why must you always be so tiresome? I shall be with Mrs. Forster, and she shall look after me. Elizabeth scoffed. Mrs. Forster is barely older than you. She has neither the experience nor the authority to protect you. Jane, ever the peacemaker, spoke more softly. Lydia, we love you. We only wish to prevent any harm from coming to you. Harm? Lydia laughed.
What harm do you expect? That I shall dance too much? Flirt too freely? You sound like Aunt Phillips." Elizabeth's voice was cold now. "You do not understand. If you disgrace yourself, you disgrace us all. You risk not only your own happiness, but ours. Do you not see that?" Lydia hesitated just for a moment. Then she squared her shoulders, her usual bravado returning. "I see that you are jealous, both of you. You have no opportunity to go to Brighton, and so you would rather I miss my chance too. I shall not be left behind like you." Jane flinched, but Elizabeth shook her head. "Very well," she said. "You will not listen to reason, but when you are left to the consequences of your actions, do not say you were not warned." Lydia huffed, turning away, and Jane pressed her lips together, a quiet sadness filling her heart. She had tried, and so had Elizabeth, but the wilful ignorance of youth was not easily turned aside. Jane left the room with Elizabeth, her mind heavy with doubt. Perhaps Lydia would return unscathed, her time in Brighton amounting to nothing more than frivolous amusement. But deep within her, a whisper of unease remained, one that she could not silence no matter how she tried.
So Jane's romance with Mr. Bingley highlights the obstacles that arise when external influences interfere with personal relationships. While she's deeply attracted to him, she resolves to move forward with her life after his abrupt departure, showcasing her ability to endure heartbreak with dignity. Jane Austen subtly hints at her internal struggle, although Jane Bennet never openly laments or complains. This quiet endurance contrasts with Elizabeth's more focal frustrations over Mr. Darcy's interference.
Do you think any consideration would tempt me to accept the man who's been the means of ruining the happiness of our most beloved sister?
However, Charlotte Lucas's remark that Jane should show more affection if she wants to secure Bingley suggests that Jane's reserved nature may have contributed to the misunderstanding.
Then she should leave him in no doubt of her heart. She should show more affection, even than she feels, not less, if she is to secure him.
Darcy later observes no particular regard from Jane towards Bingley, reinforcing the idea that her subtlety may have worked against her.
His partiality was clear, but though she received his attentions with pleasure, I did not detect any symptoms of peculiar regard.
And this raises an intriguing question. Was Jane's discretion a virtue or a failing in the context of courtship? In Pride and Prejudice, when Jane learns that Bingley has left Netherfield, she insists to Elizabeth that she will not think ill of him and believes that there must be a reasonable explanation. However, Elizabeth sees Jane's excessive goodwill as a flaw, urging her to recognise that people are not always as kind-hearted as she believes. And this moment serves as a critique of Jane's idealism, but also reinforces her consistency in believing the best in others. When Bingley eventually returns, Jane's patience and unwavering character are rewarded. The BBC adaptation captures this beautifully in the scene where Bingley visits Longbourn after his return. Jane, though visibly overwhelmed with joy, remains composed and modest, showcasing the quiet strength that defines her character.
I hope very much we shall stay a few weeks. At the very least.
In the TV adaptation, Mr. Bennet remarks that Jane and Bingley are so compliant that they will likely exceed their income and be cheated by their servants, or words to that effect.
So easy that every servant will cheat you.
No, indeed.
And so generous that you will always exceed your income.
This suggests that Jane's forgiving and trusting nature, while admirable, could also be a vulnerability. Her reunion with Bingley underscores one of Austen's central themes, that true love, though often obstructed by social expectations and meddling influences, can prevail when both individuals remain steadfast in their affections. One of the most compelling questions about Jane's character is whether she alone is free from both pride and prejudice. Unlike Elizabeth, who initially misjudges Darcy due to her own biases, And unlike Darcy, who struggles with his social pride, Jane remains consistently kind and open-hearted. Her belief in the fundamental goodness of others might make her seem naive, but in reality, it reflects her strong moral compass. She chooses to see the best in people, not out of ignorance, but out of principle. This idea is reinforced when Jane refuses to speak ill of Bingley, even after his apparent betrayal. While others might call this a weakness, Austen presents it as a quiet and powerful form of strength. And this is evident in the way Jane holds herself with grace and composure, even when discussing painful subjects. So do you think Jane's kindness is a strength or a flaw? Does she lack the ability to judge character effectively, or does her worldview reflect a deeper wisdom? Do you believe Jane and Elizabeth were truly influenced by the Gardiners more than their parents? How do their personalities reflect this potential upbringing? Could Jane have done more to guide Lydia and Kitty, or was she simply not equipped to intervene? Is Jane the only character without pride or prejudice, or does she exhibit them in subtle ways? Jane Bennet's journey is not one of dramatic transformation, but rather a deepening of her existing qualities. Through her experiences, Bingley's departure and return, her quiet suffering, her moral steadfastness, in contrast to Elizabeth's passionate judgments, Jane emerges not as a naive optimist, but as a woman who has endured emotional trials and remained true to herself. Her relationship with Elizabeth also evolves. While initially Jane appears almost too forgiving, by the end she acknowledges the risk of unchecked trust, particularly in the wake of Lydia's scandal.
I've been thinking about what you said this afternoon. That it is not only Lydia's reputation that has been ruined.
Her eventual happiness with Bingley is not merely a reward for patience, but a testament to her inner resilience. She doesn't seek revenge, nor does she allow bitterness to taint her love. Instead, she accepts life's unpredictability with grace, proving that strength does not always manifest in defiance, but in endurance and self-assurance. From a modern perspective, Jane's story offers valuable insights. In a world that often equates assertiveness with strength, her quiet fortitude challenges us to reconsider what resilience truly means.
Lizzie, that is unkind. I'm sure she meant well. Perhaps she did.
Her ability to remain kind despite hardship reminds us that optimism is not a weakness, but a form of courage. Furthermore, her patience in love and unwillingness to force affections reflect an enduring truth. Genuine relationships flourish not through manipulation or haste, but through sincerity and mutual regard. It is likely that Jane Austen crafted Jane Bennet's character with this very message in mind, subtly reinforcing her themes of virtue, patience and moral endurance through the quiet strength of one of her most underestimated heroines. However, whether Jane is truly a heroine in the traditional sense is open for interpretation. While she does not undergo a radical transformation, she remains steadfast in her values and ultimately achieves happiness through perseverance rather than defiance, a hallmark of Austen's nuanced approach to heroism. So I told you I didn't have lots to go on with this one, but I think we do see a character arc of Jane. Perhaps, even though I've said it's not naivety, there is a sense of naivety when we first are introduced to Jane Bennet. But we do see how she perseveres through the hardships that her character has to endure to finally have a resolution. Time for some comments. What do you think? Try answering those questions. I have got 2 left. but I'm thinking I might have 3. I've obviously got Elizabeth and Darcy. Which one do I do first? But I was also thinking of one video encompassing all those subsidiary characters that I've missed out, whereby I really don't have enough information to do a full-length video. Mariah Lucas, for instance. So I might do a combined video that just captures all the little elements of those characters. But I was also wondering if it would be a good idea to do a video of, I don't want to do then and now, but more in terms of the actors and what were they doing before Pride and Prejudice, and how can we see them in future productions. Certainly Colin Firth has been in many, many things. But what about all the other actors and actresses? What have they been in? So that might be forthcoming, and then I will have exhausted Pride and Prejudice for now. Although I do have another one, which I'm doing, so watch out for that. But then I'll have to go on to some other literary classics. Anyway, let's conclude this video for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.